Hello, tea people. Hello, 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 hello. Gonna take the 90 seconds-ish that I'm gonna brew this for to talk a little bit about this interesting tea from Tezumi. This is part of their classic series. You get these little 10-gram samples. This one's very reasonably priced. I think $6 for 10 grams, which 2 sessions, $3 a session. For something that is trying to be not quite as expensive as Gyokuro, but a bit more elevated than Sencha, and literally in between of both, meaning the shading quantity of time for these the processing of these plants is not as long as Gyokuro and longer than Sencha. It's kind of the main difference here with the processing style of Kabusecha. Am I saying that right? This one is from Uji, so it's going to be just south of Kyoto, and I'm excited to give it a shot. This is going to be kind of a pre-sauna drink for me. So I'm following Tezumi's guidelines here about the brewing parameters. 5 grams, 149 degree water for 90 seconds. I'm using, and that's over 100 milliliters of water. I'm actually probably only using about 70 milliliters of water. I think that, all due respect, I think that the brewing a more intense cup for me is a more beautiful experience. So this is probably about 75, 70, 80 milliliters of water here. And, you know, if I had to kind of guess, I think at this point with the processing on these steamed Japanese green teas, the thing I'm going to be looking at is the saturation color of the first steeping of the leaves. It's not a pitch dark, pitch green color, and this will certainly fade on by the second steeping. But it is not as dark as Gyokuro. Gyokuro is like a forested dusk. This is like a dense pine forest in fall. This is the Shiranami production here, and this is a single origin, single cultivar production. I'm trying to avoid all of the specifics about the taste parameters and suggestions and whatever. But yeah, 100 grams for $29 for some of these higher quality Japanese teas, fairly reasonable. Okay. Cheers. Mm. Mm. It's more mid-bodied than Gyokuro, I think, than some of the Gyokuros I've had. At least the Yame Dento. This is very salty. There's lots of the fruit on this is a more mid-noted fruit, but it's there. It's interesting. The fruit on these is so fleeting, but very. It's like the first thing I get, and then it's like that grass bitter complex. Mm. Mm. Come on. Mm. a bit oaty, kind of starchy. Not a lot of basiness on this at all, unsurprisingly. I think the bitterness is actually fairly light. No astringency. I think the viscosity, I wish I had a little bit more viscosity on that. Yeah, very an oatmeal nose on the cup. Let me get in here. Yeah. Mm, very interesting. Mm. You know, I think that my preference for these tends to be towards those really crisp, verdant flavors. And this has that, but it's not nearly dialed up. So this might not be my favorite processing style. I don't know. I can imagine, of course, that this being my first shot at this, it's hard to say. Interesting. You know, some of the Uji um, Gyokuro that I've had has a bit more of a seaweed profile. This, not quite as much. Salty, but not as seaweedy. It's almost a rice crisp, um, kind of a, you know, those like salted, uh, they're not crisps. What am I thinking of? It's like a snack mix, like a salty snack mix. Um, Kind of that kind of a thing going on in there. Not the most descriptive. Okay. And again, not using up the whole Kyusu here. Nice lasting bitterness, but nothing too intense. The grassiness on this is a little muted. It's not hay-y necessarily, but a little bit less intense on the grassiness. I'm not getting the fruit now as much. More of this kind of like oatmeal. Not in a. Sometimes you think of oatmeal cookies, but actually you're kind of thinking of cinnamon in a lot of ways. And that's not what's happening here. It's really kind of that starchy oat thing happening. Almost it's almost earthy in that sense. Hmm. Yeah, interesting. So shading plants from the sun causes them to produce fewer catechins, bitter catechins, and increases the sweet savory amino acids L-theanine. And the L-theanine in any amino acid in general is going to have more of that umami flavor to it. One thing that I believe is true from the chemistry of the plant itself is that there is more theanine in the stems by volume, which can increase the saltiness. And this one is not a very stemmy tea, so it's interesting. Much yellower, like many of these teas. And interestingly enough, on the second seating, I feel like I get a little bit more particulate coming in on many of these. Saturation is faded a little bit in the brewing vessel. Nice uniform leaves. Always blows my mind how just fully saturated these leaves are. Rigidity to 100. This is just this like neon yellow green. Cheers. A bit more hay. Fruit's gone a little bit. I like this more actually. Interesting. Okay. Maybe one of the first teas I've had that I've enjoyed the second steeping more. A much deeper profile now, much more bitter. The hay really creates a bit more depth in terms of the breadth of this flavor profile. Very soft notes of sweet fruit still on the top. Mm. Yeah, kind of that oaty, almost milky profile. Viscosity is quite a bit muted compared to maybe a 6 before. Now it's more like a 4.5, maybe like a 5. Nice, interesting. It's fun. I like the uh, I like how they've done the offering here. I really enjoy companies that are doing starter kits, if you will. So if you're going to Neon Sourcing, check out their spring green starter package where you're going to order 6 famous green teas that Scott's cultivated. Not literally cultivated, but put together in a package, something like that. I think it's a really great way, again, for someone like me who is new to drinking these teas to experience some of the classic flavors and get into a bit more about the processing. Great idea to go and just go to the website, read the about the specific tea and the processing, and then maybe it leads you down the what's it like? What are the fields in Uji? What do they look like? And then you're off and running and inspired to try different things. A much stronger bitterness. Maybe a hint more vegetal now, not necessarily seaweed, but just a bit more vegetal. Yeah, I'd say that this isn't my favorite, but it's not a bad tea necessarily at all. And the quality is there, just the profile is not quite up to what I enjoy. I think it's not as coherent. Maybe some of the flavors don't mesh quite as well for what I'm at least looking for right now on my palate. And again, I'm looking for something that's kind of got some punch to it because I'm about to go. Even though this actually feels fairly cooling to me in terms of a tea, but I have to go ahead and hit the sauna. So nice, yeah. I would say I think this is my final of the Tezumi classics. This I thought was a really really good value because again you can get into a bunch of different flavors and processing and regions for I think 20. I can't remember what it was, 25, $30, something like that. I think it was 5 teas. I'm probably misremembering that. Final sip here. Cheers. Yeah, strong bitterness in the mouth. Nice. The high notes of sweetness have faded a little bit for me as tasting it. A bit more in that kind of 40% range. A bit bassier in that profile now. I'm noticing a bit more of the hay and the earth, the kind of dusty earth. Mm. Nice, nice sweet wisps kind of at the top. Interesting. And the balance on this isn't maybe my favorite, but it's an interesting balance. Definitely kind of mid-bodied. Yeah. Check out Tezumi. Again, you can get these kind of samples or whatever reasonably priced, single origin, single cultivar, for a couple bucks a session. I think it's a good value for these kinds of teas. These for me are not daily drinker teas by any stretch, just to be clear. So I'm doing these once. I'm fortunate enough to do this far more often than I probably would if I didn't do TDB. But yeah, nice. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this one. If you have, feel free to subscribe for more Japanese tea content. I believe we're bringing on one of the Gokuros from Den's Tea in the near future. So if you are interested in seeing some of James's reaction to some high quality gyokuro, go ahead and subscribe. Those are on Tuesdays. On Sundays, we're doing kind of a philosophy type video. It might be interesting to you. Trying to do at least one Japanese tea per week as well. And of course, so much content on Chinese gongfuja and pu'er, of course, as well. So hey, kisses, toodles, bye.